My ex-wife told the judge she deserved half my wealth. She went pale when my lawyer pulled out the prenup. She forgot she signed. So I'm 38M. And this all went down a little over a year ago. I run a successful small business in construction and real estate development, something I built from the ground up over 15 years of blood, sweat, and sleepless nights. I started with nothing, literally. My parents were working class, and I worked through college, saving every penny until I could finally start my own company. Fast forward a decade and a half, and I had a thriving business, a couple of rental properties, and a very comfortable life. Enter Melissa, 34F, my now ex-wife. Melissa and I met 8 years ago when I was in my early 30s, and she was in her late 20s. Back then, I was still in the early growth stages of my business, working 80-hour weeks and reinvesting every dime back into the company. Melissa worked in marketing. Well, technically, she had a series of marketing jobs that she kept quitting because, according to her, people just don't appreciate her ideas. I ignored that red flag back then. I won't pretend the relationship was bad from the start. It wasn't. She was charming, smart, and knew how to make me feel like a king. We had fun together, and she was always supportive of my work, or so I thought. But looking back, I can see the pattern. I was the stable one, the provider, the one with the solid career, and she was always struggling to find herself. When we got engaged 5 years ago, I was doing significantly better financially, but I wasn't a millionaire or anything. Still, I had one rule before getting married: a prenup. Melissa was offended at first. She hit me with the, "You don't trust me, and why would you even think of divorce?" guilt trip. But I was firm. My lawyer drafted a very fair prenup. It basically protected all pre-marriage assets, including my business and properties, and ensured that in case of divorce, we'd each keep what we brought into the marriage. Anything we built together during the marriage would be split fairly. After some back and forth, and a few crocodile tears about how she couldn't believe I'd prepare for failure, she signed it. I even had a lawyer walk her through every detail to avoid any "I didn't understand it" arguments later. The first 2 years were fine, but once my company really started taking off, things changed. Suddenly, Melissa was less interested in building a life together and more focused on spending money. She quit her job again, deciding she wanted to be a lifestyle influencer. That failed. Then she wanted to be a real estate agent, but never actually got her license. Meanwhile, I was working my ass off, expanding my business and doing well for us. I never denied her anything: nice vacations, a luxury car, even a startup fund for her business ideas, all of which flopped. But as the money grew, so did her entitlement. She started treating my success like her success, making comments about how she helped build my business just by being my wife. That didn't sit right with me. The turning point came when I found out she was cheating. I won't drag this part out. It was cliché as hell. One of my employees saw her out to dinner with another guy, kissing him. When I confronted her, she denied until I showed her the photo. Then she broke down, begged, and swore it was a one-time mistake. I wasn't buying it. I filed for divorce the next week. Now I thought this was going to be a relatively smooth divorce because of the ironclad prenup. Oh, how wrong I was. Melissa lawyered up and decided to challenge the prenup, claiming it was unfair and that she deserved half of everything I owned because she supported me emotionally while I built my business. She conveniently forgot that she was living off my money for most of our marriage while failing at one career after another. But her real masterstroke? She lied to the judge, claiming she was forced into signing the prenup under duress. That's when I knew I had to make her regret every decision that led her to this courtroom. So at this point, I was furious, not just about the cheating, but the sheer audacity of Melissa trying to take half of everything I built. I expected her to play dirty, but lying under oath about being forced into signing the prenup? That was a new low. Luckily, I had something she didn't: a damn good lawyer. My lawyer, Mr. Hendricks, had been handling high-asset divorces for decades. When I told him Melissa was claiming duress, he actually laughed. So, she conveniently forgot about the independent counsel she had when she signed? The one we have documented proof of? Oh yeah, we had receipts. Melissa had her own lawyer review the prenup before signing, In fact, she went back and forth with me about certain clauses, and we made adjustments to be fairer to her. That alone meant her claim of "I was forced into this" was legally worthless. But that wasn't all. Hendricks dug deeper and found something even better. During our marriage, Melissa had actually bragged on social media about how smart she was for securing the prenup. Yeah, she literally posted about it. I don't know if she thought it made her look sophisticated or financially savvy, but there were multiple posts over the years where she talked about being responsible and making sure we had a prenup to protect both of us. You cannot claim duress if you've spent years publicly acknowledging that you signed something willingly. That was our first major weapon. Melissa's lawyer was not great. I'm guessing she didn't have much money to hire a top-tier attorney. That which made sense because she didn't have a job. She must have assumed she'd get a massive payday from the divorce, so she went cheap. Her lawyer's whole argument was weak. The prenup was unfair because Melissa had supported David emotionally while he built his business. She was pressured into signing it because I made more money. She was entitled to compensation because she gave up her career to be my wife. I won't lie. This last argument could have been tricky in a different scenario. Some judges do award spouses a payout if they gave up their careers to be homemakers. But Melissa? She never gave up a career. She was never stable in one to begin with. She quit jobs constantly and was the one who decided to stop working to find herself. I never forced her to do anything. She chose her path. Even if she had a good lawyer, they would have struggled to argue this convincingly. But since her guy was sloppy, I wasn't too worried. On the first day of court, Melissa walked in looking way too confident. I knew that look. She thought she was going to emotionally manipulate the judge, pull the poor abandoned wife routine. She was even dressed in soft pastels, probably to make herself seem innocent. Her lawyer made their case first. He painted a tragic story of a devoted wife who had given up her potential career for a man who discarded her. He claimed I had tricked her into signing the prenup and that she deserved a fair share of my success. Melissa even fake cried. It was honestly pathetic. Then it was our turn. Hendricks stood up, adjusted his tie, and said, "Your Honor, the claim of duress is provably false." The petitioner, Miss Melissa, had her own independent legal counsel at the time of signing. We have emails, signed documents, and financial transactions proving she paid for her lawyer's review. He handed the judge the receipts. Furthermore, the petitioner has publicly acknowledged on multiple occasions that she willingly entered into this agreement. We have social media posts where she discusses the prenup in a positive light, stating it was a responsible financial decision. Melissa's face visibly twitched. The judge flipped through the evidence, nodding slowly. That's when Hendricks went in for the kill. Additionally, we have financial records showing that Miss Melissa was not a dependent homemaker, but rather an unemployed individual by choice. Her claims of sacrificing a career are unfounded, as she had no established career prior to the marriage, nor was she prevented from seeking employment during the marriage. At this point, Melissa started looking sick. The judge turned to her lawyer. "Do you have any evidence to contradict these statements?" The guy scrambled through his papers but came up empty. The best he could do was mumble something about emotional labor. Melissa must have realized she was losing because she pulled a last-ditch move. She suddenly stood up and interrupted the hearing. "Your Honor, I was under so much stress back then. I don't even remember signing it clearly. He manipulated me into thinking it was the only way we could get married. Big mistake." Hendricks didn't even flinch. He calmly replied, "Your Honor, in addition to independent legal counsel, Ms. Melissa signed this agreement in a calm and non-urgent setting. In fact, she signed it 6 months before the wedding with ample time to reconsider." That shut her up fast. The judge leaned back in his chair, sighed, and looked at Melissa. "Miss Melissa, do you have any legitimate legal grounds for your claims?" Silence. At that moment, I saw the exact second she realized she lost. She turned pale, her jaw clenched, and her fingers tightened on her dress. Her lawyer tried to salvage the case by requesting mediation, but the judge was already done. The prenuptial agreement stands. The division of assets will proceed as outlined in the original contract. Melissa's face crumbled. I just sat there, stone-faced, watching her world collapse in real time. Melissa didn't take the loss well. I could see it in the way her hands trembled as she clutched at her pearls like some Victorian widow who'd just been told her husband's fortune was going to charity. Her lawyer whispered something to her, probably trying to get her to shut up and cut her losses. But Melissa? She wasn't wired that way. She still thought she could win. After the hearing, we had a scheduled property division mediation to finalize the split of our shared marital assets, which, thanks to the prenup, wasn't much. This was meant to be a formality, but Melissa turned it into a circus. She tried everything. 1. The emotional breakdown gambit. At mediation, she suddenly turned on the waterworks. "I just can't believe you do this to me, David, after everything we've been through. I stood by you when you were nothing, and now you want to throw me away like garbage?" Classic. The mediator, a tired-looking woman in her 50s, didn't even blink. "Miss Melissa, the purpose of this mediation is to discuss the division of marital assets. Emotional grievances are best handled in therapy." Boom. Straight to the point. Melissa sniffled, but quickly realized crocodile tears weren't working. So she switched tactics. 2. The he hid money accusation. Her lawyer, looking like he'd rather be anywhere else, tried this weak move. "We believe David may have unreported assets that should be considered for division." Oh? My lawyer barely held back a laugh. "That's an interesting claim. Do you have any evidence?" Melissa's lawyer stammered something about financial statements, but my business accounts were separate and pre-marriage, meaning they weren't eligible for division. Judge had already ruled that. Melissa was just grasping at straws. "Unless you have hard proof, we will not be entertaining baseless allegations," the mediator cut in. Melissa glared at me like I'd somehow mind-tricked the entire legal system. 3. The spousal support Hail Mary. When everything else failed, Melissa pulled the final desperation move, demanding spousal support. "I deserve alimony," she announced, trying to sound dignified instead of like someone whose house of cards was collapsing. "I gave up my career for this marriage. I have no means to support myself." My lawyer? Oh, he was ready for this. "Your Honor, I would like to submit these records showing that Miss Melissa voluntarily left her employment, made no effort to seek new employment, and instead pursued failed ventures using marital funds." He slid bank statements across the table, highlighting every single business she started and abandoned. The mediator sighed. "Miss Melissa, you are ineligible for spousal support based on your voluntary unemployment and lack of financial contribution to the household." I swear, if looks could kill, I would have dropped dead on the spot. The final nail in the coffin? See, Melissa wasn't just bad with money, she was financially reckless. She had racked up nearly $40,000 in credit card debt during our marriage. I didn't know the full extent of it until my lawyer pulled financial disclosures during the divorce. Most of it was on luxury items, influencer, investments, and useless business ventures. And because of the prenup, that debt was hers alone. At the end of mediation, my lawyer calmly reminded Melissa of this fact. "Ms. Melissa, you are responsible for your own debt per the terms of the prenuptial agreement." Melissa's eyes widened. I could tell she hadn't really processed that part before. "Wait, what?" she whispered. My lawyer, ever the professional, repeated it. "Your debt remains your responsibility." I swear I saw the exact moment her soul left her body. She had walked into court thinking she'd walk out a rich woman. Instead, she was walking out penniless and $40,000 in debt. After mediation ended, Melissa snapped. She stormed up to me in the hallway, completely dropping the sweet, innocent act. "You smug, heartless bastard, you think you're so clever?" I stared at her, completely calm. "Melissa, this is the outcome you signed up for." That set her off. "You ruined my life. I gave you the best years of my youth. You owe me." I just shook my head. "I owe you nothing, just like the prenup said." She screamed at me in the courthouse lobby before storming off. Her lawyer? He didn't even follow her. He just sighed, shook his head, and started packing up his briefcase, like he couldn't believe he'd wasted his time on this case. Melissa had still been living in our marital home during the divorce. But that house? I owned it outright before we got married. So as soon as the court finalized the ruling, I sent her an official eviction notice. She had 30 days to leave. She tried to fight it, but legally, she had no leg to stand on. When the deadline hit, I had a moving company pack up her stuff and deliver it to her parents' house, the only place she had left to go. She was officially out of my life. I thought that was the last I'd hear from Melissa. I was wrong. A few months after the divorce was finalized, I got a call from a mutual friend. Apparently, Melissa was in bad shape. Her influencer dreams were long dead, her credit was in the toilet, and her parents were tired of supporting her. She had no job, no money, and nowhere to go. At first, I figured she'd land on her feet eventually. But then I got an email from her. One last, desperate attempt to guilt me into fixing her mess. David, I know we had our differences, but we spent years together. I was there for you when you were building your business. I made sacrifices for you. Can we at least meet and talk? Please. I didn't respond. I wasn't about to let her slither back into my life. A couple of weeks later, I heard through the grapevine that Melissa had tried to take out a loan, but got denied. Remember that $40,000 in debt she was stuck with? Yeah, her credit score was in the gutter. No bank would touch her. She ended up taking a retail job at a clothing store, not exactly the luxury lifestyle she thought she deserved. The cherry on top, she had to sell the designer bags and jewelry she'd bought with my money just to keep herself afloat. The woman who once laughed at people with regular jobs was now living paycheck to paycheck. Months later, I got a text from an unknown number. It was Melissa. Congratulations. I had no idea what she was talking about until a few Google searches later. Turns out, a business article had just featured me for landing a major real estate deal. My company had just expanded into commercial development, and I was making more money than ever. Melissa must have seen it and realized just how much she had lost. She had bet everything on getting a payout from me, and instead, she was broke and forgotten. I never responded to that last text. I didn't need to. Melissa made her choices, and now she had to live with them. I walked away from that marriage with everything I had worked for, and she walked away with nothing but regret. And honestly, that was more satisfying than any revenge I could have planned.